Hi, welcome to SF Live. I'm your host, Christina Marie. They made me do that. Hey, we have a wonderful show for you tonight. We have with us political comic that you will know. Let me quote some things. Yes, the New York Times, quite possibly the best political satirist working in the country today. Boston Globe, a modern-day Will Rogers. We have with us tonight Will Durst. Welcome, Will.
Thanks for that's. I wish I had glasses.
Here, you want to try it? Here we go. Let's try.
Let's hear it. Why, thank you, Christina Marie.
Lovely.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Lovely. I like it. The Dolce & Gabbana look wonderful on you. Okay, you were born in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Is that right?
A long time ago. Yeah.
Oh, cool. I'd like to talk about Little Will for a while to start us off.
No, you don't want to talk about Little Will.
I'm talking about when you're younger. I don't know what you're talking
All
about.
right, yeah.
No. When you were a kid, what age did you know that you were funny?
You know, the family was all funny. My dad was funny, and he kind of had a wry sense of humor. So that was the deal. You know, if you could get everybody to laugh, it was considered, that was the currency of the dinner table. You know, so humor. And my dad read 4 or 5 newspapers a day. Well, 3 at least. So and my stepfather did too. So I just kind of grew up thinking that everybody did. And then when I grew up, it was, you know, the Vietnam War was going. I was forged in that crucible, you know, where everything was anti-authoritarian and, you know, we're going to stick it to the man. And we didn't get the 60s in Milwaukee till about 1974.
They got things a little later there. Okay.
So all that was constantly bubbling around. So when I started in stand-up comedy, 1974, I remember going out on stage and my first political joke, because Nixon had just resigned, and then he went to the hospital. And he went in the hospital supposedly because he had not glaucoma, but he had this disease. When the going gets tough, the tough get phlebitis. That was my first political, because phlebitis is a great funny word, you know.
So when you were a kid, did you have a favorite? I mean, I had Bill Cosby. Bill Cosby was to me the god of comedy. Who did you respect when you were a kid as a comedian?
Oh God, all those guys. You know, I used to stay up late at night so I could watch the Carson show.
Oh my God, yeah.
Yeah, and it didn't matter who was on. You know, Jan Murray. I thought Jan Murray was funny. I thought there was a guy named Johnny Dark, who now you see him on Letterman all the time. He plays the page, the ornery page.
Oh, okay.
Johnny Dark, and there was another guy, but a lot of guys kind of filtered through. You know, had a couple of brief moments, and then kind of went away. And there were so many venues at the time.
Oh yeah.
There was Merv Griffin, Mike Douglas during the daytime, and Carson, or you know, whoever, Joan Rivers, or whoever tried to be the new Carson and failed like 3 months later. Yeah. So, and it was so different back then because there were 3 TV channels. So if you got a hit on Carson, boom, your life was changed.
That's right. As opposed to like the 5,000 channels now that we have, it really dilutes it.
Yeah, so, you can be host of a TV show and no. Oh.
Oh, great. Sorry. Okay, thank you. Gee, thank you. Well, let me
put the
glasses back on here. Unzip a bit. Are we still watching? Okay, fine. Thank you. Your book is overdue. Spanking time. So you...
Are you the naughty librarian?
I am if I have to be.
Oh, okay.
There's heavy competition.
Why, Miss Faversham, you're gorgeous.
Lovely, darling.
You're ravishing.
Lovely, darling. Where did you do most of your comedy? Did you move to New York and start doing stand-up? To L.A.? Well, you just stayed home. You stayed in your hometown.
Well, I started in 74, and then I moved to San Francisco in November of 79, the exact same date. So it was 5 years in Milwaukee, 5 years incubation. The problem with doing stand-up comedy in Milwaukee is it was illegal through a bizarre licensing law.
What?
Comedy was illegal in Milwaukee because back in the 60s, comics were MCs for strippers. So they were written under the same law. So if you wanted to have a stand-up comedy showcase, you had to buy a nude dancing license.
Oh, no.
Yes, which was $1,500.
That picture is kind of getting in my head here. Did you have to strip afterwards? Were you like a comic stripper?
No.
No, that would be
It wouldn't be fair to the audience. No.
That's true.
That's not. You don't want them to run screaming.
So you didn't buy a stripper, you moved to San Francisco.
Winter drove me away.
Oh, okay.
There was a New Year's Eve in Milwaukee. I had 3 gigs. I was going to make like $85 in one night. I know. And it snowed like 13 inches, and every gig I canceled.
Oh,
I said,
no.
that's it, I'm out of here.
So you moved to San Francisco, and here at that time there was that still the other cafe, Holy City Zoo? We had the Improv. It was
No,
rich.
not the
Nope,
Improv.
not yet.
No, the Holy City Zoo was comedy showcases during the week.
Okay.
And then on Friday and Saturday they had papaya juice.
Okay.
So there was no stand-up comedy. And I think the other cafe was doing open mics, and comedy was Tuesday and Saturday.
Okay.
And then it went Tuesday, Wednesday, and then they went full-time comedy.
That was a fun place.
Punchline was about 3 years old, going full-time comedy. And the way that happened was because Jeffrey Pollack, who opened up the old Waldorf, Punchline was their dressing room, and he had the comedy competition finals at the old Waldorf. So he and another guy are going back, have a couple of drinks, a couple of shots between, after the show, and the guy looks around, John Fox looks around and says, he's making good comedy. And that's how it happened.
John Fox, still
And
running.
there were 3 cities in America where you can earn your living in stand-up, and they were not New York or L.A., because everybody's willing to do it for free, as we know.
Let me guess, Chicago.
Chicago, Boston, and San Francisco.
Boston, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Excellent.
And I moved here because there was no winter.
Because you just wanted to have a nice mild winter like we do, where you can lay out and get a tan.
Well, also, it ruled out Chicago because you needed a car in Chicago. And so that left Boston and San Francisco because, you could get around on public transportation. Just hop on a Mooney, which is what that's what I thought, yeah.
Aren't they at the airport?
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. Hop on a Mooney. They don't appreciate that.
No, they
But
don't.
you get less flowers. The whole funny thing I'm wondering about is, were audiences more politically savvy back then than they are now?
Yeah, they were a reflection of their times.
Okay.
And comedy audience is 18 to 35. It doesn't matter when you go. I mean, if you go in 1974, 1979, the average age of the audience is 18 to 35. So they want to see comics that reflect who they are. And back then, comedy was kind of like verbal jazz. It was rock and roll for people who wanted to sit down and hear the lyrics, and there was a lot of rock and rollers who wanted to be stand-ups, and a lot of stand-ups wanted to be rock and rollers. So there was a mixture of flamboyance and a lot of risk take, and there was no money in it. Back in 1980, there was no money. There wasn't a lot of money in it till like 87. So for those 7 years, you had comics who had to be comics, not because they had to be. They were round pegs, not fitting into the square holes. They were outcasts and misfits and miscreants and reprobates, and they were just cretinous, full-toed butt wipes. They were. And,
lovely.
Yeah, and you had this weird kind of fringe group of personalities, and they all, and every wave kind of cleaves onto itself, the ones that you meet at all the open mics and stuff. That's your wave, and everybody got to be friends.
So Timeline here, then Ha came in. Was that one of the first comedy channels that had, I know that it started going on cable and people's material started getting played, and that changed the whole face of it, whereas people now wanted to get a show in Seinfeld.
Exactly.
Yeah, and all those.
Well, HBO was the game changer. Because HBO had, I think, come on the air in like 76 or 77. And they were doing on-location specials. And they were showing hour-long comics. And you never, anywhere. Carlin was the first, and then a couple of others. So they found out how cheap it was to produce stand-up comedy.